for joining us at today's GRO Global Relations Office Open House. So with us here today, we have Arita. Arita, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Arita. I'm a year 4 global studies major and I went on a student exchange program to Lund University, Sweden. Yes. Hello.
Okay, Sweden, nice. And here we have Hui Min.
Hello, I'm a final year student. I'm doing economics and engineering. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Went to Hong Kong, so I did my summer program at Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. So what about you, Nicole?
Oh, I went to two summer programs, one in China and one in Hong Kong, as well as a student exchange in the Netherlands. So today, we'll be answering other questions, and the three of us are actually peer advisory leaders, PALs for short, from the Global Relations Office. So this is the GRO. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer them. So over the past week during our open house, we have also been receiving questions from you, and we'll be taking them today. So to start off, our first question was actually, why did you choose NUS? Arita, would you like to go?
Okay, so because I'm from FASS, so I chose NUS mainly because I knew that I could take a lot of modules from FASS specifically, and because I knew I wanted to major in global studies. And actually, I felt that NUS was also a very good place for me to study for the next 4 years because I also wanted to experience the campus life and what it was like studying in NUS. Yeah, so that's why I chose NUS.
Nice. Hui Min, do you have anything to add?
It's basically the same. I thought that because when I was matriculating, there were a lot of things that I wanted to do. Like I was interested in engineering, also interested in economics. I couldn't make up my mind, so I decided that NUS actually has a lot of flexibility for you to explore your interests and do things that you never thought you would do at this point of admission. So it's been a good few years, and I really enjoy myself a lot. So hope you guys can think about what you are interested in and also make an informed decision about it. So how about you, Nicole?
For me, it was also the flexibility in the modules. And actually another thing was the overseas experiences, so like the study abroad programs that we had. So there were things like, there's also currently happening summer, winter, short-term programs, also student exchange programs. So these were actually very important in my decision to come to NUS. So I don't know for you guys, were international experiences a thing you looked out for as well? So yes, for both Arita and Hui Min. Okay,
Oh,
nice.
sorry. For me, when I was choosing NUS, I didn't actually consider any of the international opportunities. Like, it just didn't really occur to me because I was just more focused on how I wanted to spend my life, like on campus and in NUS. And just for the record, like if anybody got any questions, I stayed in Cambridge Hall for my first 2 years. Yeah. So I actually found out about all those like exchanges and like international opportunities and studying abroad through seniors that I've befriended in NUS, and then seeing like their Instagram photos and seeing them like go overseas and have a lot of fun, and then that kind of inspired me to also want to do the same and apply for my student exchange program as well. Yeah. What about you, Hui Min?
Actually, for me, it was interesting because I actually entered NUS. I thought I didn't want to go on it because I actually thought it was like not important, maybe not within my consideration, and some more because I think there are a lot of multidisciplinary courses, and if you're in that, you will know that it's definitely a little bit more tedious, a few more modules that you do than the single degree. So I thought when I was admitted to NUS, that was not in my consideration at all. Because at that point I was not interested in it, but turns out actually not really the case. So your interest will change along the way. So it did change for me. What happened was I realized that actually life in NS is fun, but like it did lack something. So I thought that it would be nice to explore something within the curriculum that was like given to me and as a WD student. So I actually could go on a summer program halfway through my double degree. So that was also quite interesting. I thought it was a good recharge also. I think in the middle you need something to keep you going as well. So do keep this option open, and also my advice to all of you is to at this stage do keep open mind. You don't know what you want a few years down the road or even a few months down the road. So keep your options open, and also try to grab all the opportunities that you have along the way. So for me, it was I was offered a summer program and I went for it, and it was a good decision, and I really enjoyed my experience. How about you? Yeah.
Oh, actually, before that, I have a follow-up question for you.
Yeah, what?
Because you mentioned that you have a very heavy workload, right?
Okay,
So,
yeah.
is there any advice that maybe our fellow students can benefit from while also doing maybe double major, double degree, something heavy?
So for heavy workloads, technically not really heavy, just that maybe you have to plan in advance. Because for you, because if you're doing, let's say, a heavier workload, perhaps you had a more, you have a prescribed curriculum to follow, like you have these modules to clear that you can't negotiate, as opposed to your single major friends who perhaps have more electives. So you might have, let's say, you need to take care of, or can I complete my modules in time for graduation. So it's always really good to plan in advance, because when I went, I was already in year three. It was very late, so I did not have much options. But thankfully, I still managed to plan about maybe a semester ahead to plan where I wanted to go, what I was interested to do, and also what are the modules that I wanted to do there, what are the programs I wanted, what are the learning outcomes I wanted to do over there. So always plan in advance, especially if you, let's say, have a specific plan that you want to achieve. So, and also good to start thinking now, because you never know when the opportunity or like a specific application email might come in your way. So you might want to keep a lookout for that, rather than to miss deadlines and then miss the opportunity altogether at all. So that's my take on it. Yeah.
Agree. I think many people can benefit from that. And just another note of planning. So personally, I managed to cover level 4,000 modules on exchange. And I think this was only possible because I had talked to some of my seniors, those who had been on exchange before, and also I got help from my faculty advisor. So since many batches of students have already been on exchange, you can really benefit from that if you plan early and really get advice. So for those of you who are planning to clear specific modules, you should start early and you are able to clear something really interesting and beneficial on exchange. So maybe I will now share our next question, which is a bit general, but to tell us about your overseas experience. So maybe, Arita, you want to start us off in Sweden?
Okay, so for me, I guess I would like to split like my exchange experiences into like three different parts. So firstly, academically, so one thing about exchange is that you get to experience like a different kind of like teaching culture compared to NUS. So for Lund University specifically, we did a lot more like class discussions and group discussions. So it was mostly seminar based, and then we had to talk a lot in class and then like get into groups, that kind of thing. Readings wise, it was kind of the same workload as NUS, and the topics that I chose were actually really interesting as well. And then yeah, so academically it was still as rigor as NUS, I would say, but it was also very fun because I got to like make friends with my group mates because of all the group discussions and because of all the seminar participation. And then in terms of like personally, like I think Lund University is like such a great place to make friends because the university itself like hosts, as you can see, like this is me with like some friends that I made. So like I think Lund University has a lot of events that allows you to meet other international people and other exchange students. So what Lund University does is that they actually split you up into like different mentor groups where you can just like meet different people of like all the different like cultures and countries as well. And not only that, because Lund University is also like a university town, so the city itself is like filled with students everywhere. Like everywhere you go is just students. So it's honestly like a very easy way to just like make friends and just like step out of your comfort zone as well. And then in terms of like living alone, I think one thing about study abroad that I think is very, very like beneficial is that it teaches you how to be independent. So for me, like even though I lived in hall before, I think it's a totally new, different experience from like being able to go home every weekend, for example. So for exchange, like I had to settle my own finances, I had to do grocery shopping, clean my own room, and all that kind of thing. So I think that's what makes exchange like different, is because it helps you to really grow as a person because it really pushes you out of your comfort zone. And then in terms of like traveling as well, I think because I went to Europe, which is like Sweden, I managed to travel to a few different places, and it was really, really like an eye-opening experience. And I was very grateful that I was able to travel like before coronavirus hit, like right before. So I actually managed to go to like quite a few countries, and that really also like broadened my purview of like my perspective on just like culture and like global like experiences. Yeah. So I think exchange itself was just like a a bit cliche, but it was like a life-changing experience for me because it just really pushed me out of my comfort zone, and it just like led me to do a lot of things that I didn't think I would do. And then I'm just like bringing that same perspective and like same attitude back to Singapore as well, and that really helped me a lot. Yeah, so I would definitely recommend it to anybody who just wants like a change of scenery or just like to have a whole different experience than like in just NUS. Yeah.
Nice, thanks, Rita. So, and for everyone who's in our Insta Live now, if you have any questions regarding what Rita has shared or anything else, just please feel free to send a comment in send a question in and we really like to expand on your question. So maybe now we can play with these experiences.
Went to Hong Kong. So when I was there, I was in a was a very young university. It was Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. When I was there, it was quite interesting because what happened was that because everyone says that Singapore and Hong Kong are quite similar. Everything is like international hub. It's like a global. It's like a place where so many mix of cultures and everyone people from countries all over the world. But I think the most interesting thing is that I got to see what's the difference between both international hubs. Yes, Singapore is more Asia-centric, and whereas in Hong Kong, I felt that was a bit more centered towards that area itself. So it was kind of nice, and it was my first time living in a place where it was, Mandarin was like Mandarin or let's say any Arabian or Chinese or Cantonese was predominantly used. So it was quite interesting to have an experience whereby sort of English is not like the use in the heartland places, etc. So I had to adapt to it and then had to get used to seeing Chinese words, and particularly traditional Chinese. So that was a very interesting experience for me. And I also thought that going there was quite, like Anita said, having to take care of your own your daily life, etc. Going for grocery shopping, which well sometimes it's quite maybe quite challenging, but also quite rewarding to live alone because when I was there, did a lot of solo travels and walked around, and also managed to do a lot of hikes. So that was something I enjoyed as well. Everyone says that Hong Kong is urban jungle, but there's still quite a lot of green spaces as well, so I really like that as well. Well, and then if there's any questions or any comments, you can leave it there. We can, I'll be happy to share more specific to your questions. How about Nicole? How about your skills?
Actually, in Hong Kong as well. So just, I think in a different university. I was at Polytechnic University or Polytechnic in Hong Kong, and I took two modules there, so Cantonese and Discovering Hong Kong Society. And they were both really interesting because I know a bit about Hong Kong society, but studying it in a class is completely different. It gives you a new perspective that you wouldn't really get as a tourist. So it's something that you can really only experience as a student studying in Hong Kong. And my second summer program was actually to Zhejiang University in China. So I'm actually from arts, but I took a business course there. And it was really interesting because I had zero business background or anything. Thanks, Rita. So during that's Zhejiang University. And during that trip, we also managed to visit Alibaba, Skio, Gatui with my new friends, very international. Yeah, and that was really interesting because where else would you find the opportunity to visit Alibaba, right? So yeah, so I did quite a few modules summer school, but most of the thanks, Rita. So yeah, that was summer school, and finally I went to SCP student exchange in the Netherlands. So here I was in the communication school because that's my major, and it was really interesting because I don't stay in hall, so this is one of the few opportunities that I got to stay sort of alone on campus and also make a lot of friends. So my most memorable experience there is Carnival, which is what we see on the screen here. And then, yeah, so Carnival is something very European, very different from what we experience here. And that's the benefit really of going overseas. You get to experience something that you can sort of never find back home in Singapore. Yeah, so that is the roundup of my experience. And I'm going to ask Aretha now to share just one bit of your fondest memory abroad. That's the next question. What's your fondest memory?
Wow, that's a tough question because there was so even though I was only there for like 2.5 months before I had to come back because of COVID, but I made so many like memorable experiences. But I think the fondest memory would probably be like me and my friends, we were just like chilling like in like our rooms, like because we live in the same dorm. And then we're just like, hey, shall we go to Copenhagen, like Denmark, which is a different country? We're like, okay, sure. And from Lund to Denmark is just like a 40-minute train ride. And because, like EU, so like everything is interconnected. You don't need like visa to just go to another country. You can just step to another country. So we were like, okay, let's go to Copenhagen. And then we just took a 40-minute train ride to Copenhagen, and then we just traveled Copenhagen for that whole day. And I think one very memorable thing about that trip is like when we were just like looking at some stalls, and then we looked into this art studio, and we were like, wow, like this looks cool, let's just go in and look. So it's kind of like the kind of pottery stuff, like ceramic kind of stuff. And then the guy was just like, oh, hi guys, like, are you guys interested? And I'm like, oh no, we're just looking. And then he was like, do you want to go up to the studio and meet the artist herself? And we were like, what? So he just gave us a whole tour of the art studio upstairs. And then like we met the artist also, which was really cool. So we were like, wow, like the people are so nice. Yeah, and I feel like that's just the thing about exchange is that like you just never know like what will happen, and like anything can happen as long as you kind of just like put yourself out there. So yeah, this is like me and my friends in Copenhagen. Yeah, this is like the famous like colorful houses place. I can't remember what is it called, but yeah. So this is just one of my fondest memory. Yeah. What about you, Hui Min?
Well, like you, I can't pinpoint like any particular moment, but like because every single moment was interesting there, that was fun. So I spent about 3 months there. So I mean, most of us maybe we might have a chance to go to Hong Kong. We visited all the touristy places and whatever that is said to to be famous and must go. I went there. But I think one of the most interesting thing was that I did two things that were not particularly very touristy. So and because I'm more of like a outdoors nature kind of person, I did actually do quite a few hikes and actually there were quite a few like places that were known for their. So one of these is a photo of me on one of my hikes. So actually it was kind of nice because sometimes city life can be quite hectic and quite tiring. So like once in a while, like having like a really nice like hike outdoors on the weekends really takes off all the stress and everything away. And it's also a good way to have exercise because you get to spend the whole afternoon and get to walk around, see things, and so that particular outlying island that we went to, there was like a mini village that was quite quiet and also, but it has a little rustic charm to it. It was quite interesting, and we did spend a good afternoon there exploring like both like the city, like the village itself, the people, what they were selling there, and like interesting things that they do. And then I guess that was one of the most interesting moments because I never expected that maybe it could be such a quiet and relaxing place in a set in such a busy city like Hong Kong. So that was my favorite experience. Do you have something like that or?
I think to say my favorite experience with the whole thing, but yeah, it's not a very good answer. I think
Same.
it's actually planning process as well. Oh yes, so being on exchange, I had to really start budgeting. I had to start planning my time and really maximize my own experiences. So that meant doing a lot of research. And I think that that's really interesting because you do the research, you get ready, you make your plan, and Excel sheet in my case. And then when you actually go there and experience everything, it's really rewarding. And I think it's a very unique experience that maybe most, if not all, university students should experience once at least. And I think that that's a lot of small little lessons can be done there. So even things that we thought we planned, my friends and I thought we planned really well. So for example, we planned our Flixbus, which is one of the cheapest ways to get around Europe. We planned our Flixbus route, but in the end, like we missed one or two, and we had to, make plans, buy instant tickets or something else. And those challenges are really memorable in themselves because you're really stranded in a foreign country and you really need to stay calm, you need to be logical and think of what's the next best step for you. And I think all these little lessons together form a really fun memory for me. Yeah. And something to follow up with what I just shared actually, the next question is what is one setback that you experienced abroad and what advice would you give to yourself, your past self, or to future students? So anyone, Aretha, maybe you guys wanna
Actually, I wanted to build on like what you said just now, like the bus tickets, etc. Yeah, this is like one thing that like I don't know like maybe being a very new me right? Like I was a bit not very experienced. Like I guess it take a lot of convenient things in Singapore for granted. So that was one of the like so like when we were touring those outlying islands, there were always like we always we got carried away with whatever we wanted. And a lot of fun lah. I mean, that's the point of the traveling, right? But I guess one thing we forgot was that those trips back, like by buses, ferries, etc., they do have like a last train, last bus, etc. Which we were so carried away we forgot. I feel like someone was like, hey, what time is the last bus train? Then we realized that, oh my god, like it's like maybe 20 minutes away. And then it maybe like it's quite distant, so we had to rush there because otherwise if it's storm, going to spend spend the night there. And then, yeah, I guess that will be a quite crazy experience because it will be an entirely strange place that we've never been before. Will be quite, I don't know, it will be quite a scary experience, but then thankfully we just planned and then we made it. Yeah, we made it, so we got back. And then, but the thing is that we hope not to go for that kind of experience again because I think that was quite a scary experience and can potentially dangerous as well. So maybe take care of all those like things like last train, last buses that you know take for granted, and also the weather conditions because in Singapore it is very it's just way of sunlight, right? Correct. So like in other places you might have to take care of all these weather conditions and prepare yourself for it, I guess. Don't know about Anita or Nicole, anything to add on?
Actually, I had a similar experience in terms of like the train stuff. Like, I was actually traveling with my friend from Germany to Austria, like by train, and we were taking like an overnight train. And then we kind of like got onto the wrong train, and then we were almost stranded at like 2 a.m. in some random part of Germany. But thankfully, like another train came, which was like the last train to go to Austria. Then we got onto the train. But that was also quite scary because like if we miss the train, right, we would just be stranded cold, very, very cold in some random part of Germany, like
Yeah.
at 2 a.m. So thank God, like we actually managed to go on the train and like nobody was around us. It was just like two of us. But I think that's one of the things that makes exchange so like incredible. It's like so fun. Anyways, I think for me, like one setback that I actually experienced was that like I like you know like when you're exchange, you kind of just like want to pack everything into the 6 months. So you kept feeling like you had to do a lot of things every single day. So for me, I think I kept trying to do a lot of things every single day until I was just like so tired of doing everything. So I think one thing that I would have done maybe differently is probably to just like stop to kind of smell the roses a bit. So sometimes when you're just doing everything so fast and then time passes so quickly that you kind of forget that you're actually there and you forget to just like be mindful that like, oh my God, I'm actually here because you're always so caught up with like wanting to do so many things. So I think one advice I would give is to just be like more mindful, I guess, or be more present that you're there also and not try to be like too caught up with wanting to do so many things because sometimes when you try to jam pack everything, then you kind of like lose the experience also because you're always like thinking about what's next, what's next. But it's also important to kind of just like slow down. So for me, like I think what I would have done if I could like go back in time, for example, I would just like take my bike out, like my bicycle, and just like cycle around town and just enjoy the view or like cycle to like some hill or something, just like enjoy the scenery. Yeah, I think that's one of my advice. Yeah.
Okay, nice, nice. Yeah, I think I experienced something quite similar because for me, I traveled before that. So I traveled for a month actually. So I did all my traveling before exchange, and when I finally reached my like uni hostel, I was so exhausted. I think the first week I just like stayed indoors and didn't explore the city.
Yeah.
It's quite intense. But another setback actually that came to my mind was actually settling like adulting things, you know, like visa, insurance, that kind of thing. So for myself, going to the Netherlands as a student, like we need a long-term visa and it's free, but you have to apply for it in advance, of course. And I didn't take into account that the embassy will actually hold your passport for like a week or at least a week. So I actually got mine like 2 days before my departure date, and it was such a panicky situation because by then it's kind of out of your control and you can't really rush them or ask for your passport any faster. So I really recommend like anyone going on exchange to really prepare for these kinds of things. Really note down how long it's going to take for each thing to process. Maybe you might need other forms or other documentations that you really don't want to be without. So yeah, just a note of advice to anyone going.
All these deadlines, etc., application,
Yeah.
blah blah blah. Like it will hold you back if you do not take care of that.
Definitely.
Yes.
So actually all these kind of points to our next question about how going overseas has helped you like professionally or personally. Anyone wants to take this one? Development, personal development, professional.
Maybe I can share first. Because I'm doing economics, so naturally I take an interest in, let's say, understanding both countries in general. So one of the things that I thought was quite useful was that actually being there itself, I actually understood how things were going there, how people thought there, like what were they thinking about, why were they so, because we all know that Hong Kong is very entrepreneurial, it's like a free marketplace, but how why do these things happen? Why are they so innovative? So why does things happen so quickly over there? So in the past we would read like, oh, newspaper says that blah 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 blah. But actually when I was there, I realized that hey, actually they understand a bit of how they thought, the psychology of people there and their mindsets, and it really helped me understand how the place operated and everything. So I guess that was one of the most interesting takeaway that I had, was that you really experienced firsthand how the things were unfolding there. And then if let's say one day were to really have to make let's say be in a role to, let's say, interact with them professionally, I guess it'll be easy to let's say stick in the language that they understand, and then understand why they're doing such stuff like that, because you actually have a first-hand experience on how people in that particular place that you are going for exchange in, how do they think and why do they do things in a certain way, and the stereotypes or the beliefs that we have of these people there. Why are they true? Are they not? And if they are true, why are they so? And these are things that are very valuable for you. It's like a lifelong thing that you carry on with you for life. And then I guess it's professionally, you have to determine what helps you in your future career goals that you think you might want to pursue, and then choose the experiences that you want accordingly, that you might want to learn about or understand. So I guess that's my take on this question. How about Elisa? Yeah.
Actually, I can add to that on what you said about thinking about like your future goals and how being overseas can actually help you. So for me, because I'm a global studies major, so being more of like having an overseas experience is kind of vital to the whole like education itself, or the whole learning process itself. So for me, when I went on exchange, like before exchange, I would say like I was just lost, like because I was year 3, I didn't even know what I wanted to do in the future. I was like, okay, like I'm just going to go on exchange and see what comes out of it. But when I went on exchange and like I met like so many international people, and kind of also like learned about all the different cultures in Europe, it kind of like solidified like my goal of wanting to work overseas as well. So in terms of like professionally, like when I came back especially, I felt so motivated to just like study harder so that like I can go overseas next time and also like find a job overseas. And it also kind of like pushed me to want to learn more different languages, because like what I realized from being overseas also is that languages is really like the kind of the bridge to you and someone from like from a different culture. So learning the language of a country that you want to be in is actually like very important to wanting to like really fully assimilate it into another like culture and like heritage also. And then for personally, I think that being on exchange actually helped me to grow, like I would say more like emotionally independent. Like it gave me like a lot of like courage to just like do more things, because I feel like when you're on exchange, like you kind of have this mindset like, okay, I'm only here for a short period of time, I'm just gonna do what I want to do. So for me, like I just pushed myself a lot to get off my comfort zone. So things like taking the initiative to talk to a stranger, taking the initiative to like invite some friends over for dinner and then like cooking for them, that kind of thing, or like just playing board games. So it's this kind of like little experiences that slowly build up to just building your courage like overall to just do things. So I feel like one thing that it definitely taught me is the mentality that it's just like it's better to try than to give in to failure and not do anything. So I feel like the whole failure thing is a very like your own perception. So it's better to just try, and then even if you kind of not fail, like if you more like if you kind of fail, it's not really a failure because at least you know you tried. So that is like kind of the main mentality that I brought back to Singapore as well, and like what I want to continue like living also, which is one of the things that I learned from exchange. Yeah. What about you, Nicole?
I think building on what you said, it was really taking responsibility for everything that happens, because what happens during exchange or when you're overseas really depends on you and how you respond to different changes that, things, unexpected things that happen. So I think how my overseas experiences helped is to really make me more confident in making the right decisions, but also informed decisions. So like in Singapore, I think we're very used to being safe and sort of sheltered in a way, at least for myself. So, but when I was overseas, I realized that the danger is real. Like when I was alone in Greece for a while, and I couldn't find my hostel, so I was walking, following Google Maps round and round, and I was also a bit apprehensive of asking, locals there, like in case I don't know they had some ill intentions or something. So at that point, I really had to balance between safety and also doing what I felt was right at the moment. Yeah. So I feel all these opportunities and all these situations really pushed me to grow. And I think that this will really continue to shape the way I like the rest of my life in the future going forward. And actually, we have another question here, a live question that asks, how easy is it to get into overseas programs? Do you guys have any?
Well, I actually went for a summer program, so I guess the criteria might be a little different. So I went under the faculty summer program. So for my case, application was quite I guess fast free because I think we had time to prepare for it. So keep all the documents that you might need, like for example your transcript, your personal statement, etc. Keep it handy if you need, and then try and have those information maybe now that maybe all of you are doing your admissions, it'll be kind of convenient for you to scan it everything and keep it like in a soft copy. You never know when you will need it, and rather than scrambling to looking for it. I remember when like always read all the clauses carefully. So like for example, they were asking for like passport photo. I totally forgot to attach. And then like when I saw the email they're saying that this is urgent, can you please send me your passport photo? I had to rush to look for like a proof and everything. So these are the things that I guess it was myself that caused all these problems. So other than that, the application was quite easy for like my summer program case. I just followed the application and then I had the faculty to endorse it, and then follow up with, let's say, things like module mapping. So like I knew in advance what modules I wanted to map. So being prepared also helps in that sense that you can follow up your application quite quickly. And then once that was done for summer programs application, then we had to move on with, let's say, those visa application, etc. So just follow the instructions and know at each stage what is required as stated in the instructions. And then for my case, there was no interview because there was some program. It was a bit different from their cases where I think they went on student exchange programs, XCP. So for my case, it proceeded quite smoothly, and then and there I went. So maybe you guys want to share about SCP because I know that that's a bit different, and most people do go on SCP instead. Yeah.
Aretha, do you wanna answer that?
Okay. I think for me, the application was actually quite smooth. Like for FASS, because I'm from FASS, so there is no interview process. I know some faculties have that. So for FASS, it's basically you have to write a personal statement, and then you have to kind of like show them what kind of modules you can map also and some of the universities that you're intending to go to, and then just send it in. And in terms of like how they allocate you to a certain university, there is no for FSS, you can give your like top priority if I remember correctly, but you cannot, there's no ranking, right? Like there's no ranking, so you just put in some universities that you want to go to. So I think how they allocate is, I think it's very dependent on both like your personal statement and your grades. So yeah, that's just, FASS. And then also I think one advice, right, that I could give is to map your modules ASAP. Like basically what module mapping is that you choose a module from NUS that you can clear through taking a module from your partner university. So this means that the modules have to be pretty similar. Yeah, so one of the things about choosing a partner university that you want to go to or like a host university you want to go to is whether or not you can clear your modules from NUS at the university, because it's pass fail. So a lot of people want to try to clear as many as they can. But the max is obviously just like 20 MCs or max 22 MCs. Yeah, so try to map your modules as soon as you can, because it always takes some time for the faculty to approve the module mapping also. And sometimes it might get declined, like it might not get accepted. So then you have to like find something else. So just find a PU, like a university that has a lot of modules that you can map to. So for me, global studies, like I can take quite a lot of modules. So Lund University was actually very simple for me to find modules to map also. Yeah. And then the visa, all that. I think the good thing about FASS is that they gave us like a whole checklist. Like Nicole, I don't know if you can remember, but they gave us like a pre-departure checklist and like a whole like slides and everything for us to like run through whether or not we forgot anything. So for me, like I just had to follow it, and then I just had to apply my visa from like the Swedish migration, got my student permit, collected it from the Swedish embassy in Singapore, and then yeah, I think that was about it. Yeah.
Actually, Rita, what you mentioned, right, the pre-departure checklist, and even like during exchange and after overseas, all this stuff is actually found on the GRO website. So I think that's NUS.edu/GRO. So you can really refer to that. And Erika, if you don't mind taking our next question, I saw was in the comments, how many universities or countries can we choose from to do our student exchange programs in?
Oh, okay. So there's actually a lot. Like NUS is partners with a lot of universities worldwide. So in total, there are more than 300 partner universities that we can choose from, and they are also all listed in the website. So you can just go to the website, and then they are split into the different regions, and under there are all the universities. So actually, NUS has a lot of licenses that you can choose from, and yeah, it's a vast amount. So there's many options for you to choose from if you're interested in a lot of different regions.
Yeah, and once again, actually, all the different regions are available on the GRO website. So if you want to really take your time to go through all the options, which countries, which regions you can look at, and which universities, please go over and take a look. And actually, my next question here is going overseas worth the cost. So, maybe you want to start on this one? Is it worth the cost?
I guess it definitely was. It was worth all the money that I spent. Definitely. I wish I spent more because because when I was there, I was like, very concerned about like, oh, like, I mean, you're there for like quite a few months, right? Then you sort of like, okay, I need to budget my money properly. Oh, okay, like maybe I would like to spend more towards the end or something like that. So I think you do have some concerns like that. But like, I guess like I overdid it. So, so I was like, I guess like I didn't do much. I was like, okay, maybe I'm here, but like, should I not spend too much here and there? So like, I think overthinking it and then not having like an Excel sheet kind of thing, right? Like you're budgeting properly, sort of like really, it's not ideal. So that was something I learned that maybe just having the Excel sheet and budgeting like the money over there, like look how much you want to spend there, and then just going there and do it. Don't hold yourself back. Once you have planned everything properly, just do it, and then it'll be really good for experience. And then I would say it was worth every single like cent I spent there because I guess it was an experience that maybe, especially so now, like it's once in a lifetime. And then like having like once you're back, you're a different person already. You experience so much more things. I guess having that experience and having that fond memories to look back, I guess it's worth it. I didn't spend much, but I guess like I think nobody who is budget should like deny of this opportunity. I guess that quite a few like financial aid that you could actually go for. That you might have to like add to the whole advice, look up in advance. So all this information are quite released publicly to students, and more accessible to everybody. Let's say you can go to the GRO website, that's where we get all our information. Don't be like me. I didn't apply for financial aid, although I qualified for, I think. I actually spent everything in cash. So, so like, then I thought, when I was there, I saw I met a Singaporean student by NUS, and she was like, "Oh, you apply for this and that." I was like, "What do you mean by that?" Then I was like, "That program." I was like, "Oh, you didn't know ah?" I didn't know that. I really didn't know. So, I mean, I could have like, I mean, not that like it's something that I desperately needed, but it would be good to have, let's say, a backup sum of money that you might want, because it's always good to have like a backup rather than to really like stretch your dollar every day. So I remember there was one week I was really living on like my last like $100 for that that week or something like that. But I guess it was okay lah. You learn to budget your money and you learn to look up research in advance. And okay lah, those days where I really searched on like my last $100 was quite fun also. I was trying to find
A different experience.
yeah, the most budget way of living overseas. It's quite nice to explore like, the cheap food stuff that were overseas. So don't forget to research and don't forget to always explore options. Anyone that's applied for it? Like,
Arita, you applied, right, Arita?
Wait, for what? Like the NASA, is it?
For SCP, yeah, for NASA.
Oh,
right?
yeah. So for me, like in answering this question, whether or not like going overseas is worth the cost, I think it really depends on like your financial situation and like what you set out to do. Because I feel that yeah, like being overseas is kind of like a privilege. Like when you like it's not cheap, like honestly. But then I feel that like whether or not it's worth the cost, it depends on you. So whether or not like you actually set out to like do the things that you want to do on exchange, and like so for me, like I was quite strict with my money. So for me, like I actually got the NASA bursary from GRO from NUS, yeah. And then that really helped me a lot. And you can actually find more details on the GRO website. Like actually GRO actually gives a lot of like different options to apply for to get like money to go on exchange. So if you're worried about like financials, you can actually just do that. But for me, like I was very strict with my money, so I actually like downloaded this app. If any of y'all are interested, it's called Spendy, where like they help you to like budget and like help you to also like split up like what you buy. So like shopping, groceries, all that is all like separated, so you can kind of see like where your money goes to. But I think also it depends on like what you consider as valuable. So for some people, like they want to go traveling more, but for me, like I kind of prioritize like wanting to immerse into the Swedish culture. So I chose to spend more money on like eating out with friends, even though it can be pricey. But then it's kind of like always a trade-off. So like I choose to eat out more means that I spend lesser on groceries, or like I spend lesser on transport, or I spend lesser on like airplane flights. So it really depends on how you prioritize your money and how much you want to spend also, and how much you want to allocate to different things. But I would say it would be good to just like set a fixed budget first. So for me, it was like if I want to be like very specific, like I spent I think like, if I can remember correctly, it was like I set out like, okay, 5,000 is for the basic like flights and accommodations, which is like the where kind of the bulk of your money might go to, which is like the flight from Singapore to the university, and then your accommodations for the full 6 months or so. And then the remaining money, like I think for me it was about like six or like 7,000 around there. Then I split it into like specifically, okay, this amount will be for traveling. So then I was like, okay, this amount is stay there, and then this amount is left in Sweden. I'm gonna spend this amount here. So then that's how I kind of like allocate it. Okay, per week I will spend like, let's say, 40 Sing dollars on groceries. So I will just fix it at that also. And then I'll fix like, okay, then every week I'll spend this amount on like eating out, or like going out with friends, or like drinks, that kind. Then that's how I split my money. So I would say it was worth the cost for me, because like I feel that I managed to kind of like meet the objective that I wanted to, like from going on exchange. So I managed to like meet the goals that I set out to do also. So I think that's how you can measure whether or not it's worth it, or whether or not like you meet the goals that you set out to achieve also. Yeah. How about you, Nicole?
So similarly to you, I also applied for the NASA exchange scholarship, and I think that really helped because it was really like a burden that I had, like mental burden on planning for exchange. But so thanks to that, I managed to actually do a lot more things that I wanted to. And it's really like, Europe is like kind of far for us. So like since you're there, you really want to like maximize your experience. And actually another thing that I realized was you can find a lot of like free or like cheaper alternatives to really explore cities and explore the like local way of life. So actually when I was traveling, I actually did a lot of like free world walking tours, and I did a lot of sort of like affordable things that were also really memorable, like like watching sunset from like a hill after a trek or something. So I think all these sort of comes in when you do the research lah. And so that was SCT, right? And then for when I went to China, I was also quite privileged to get the CISC funding. It's I think China initiatives something as CISC, so you can go find it if you want to. Yeah, use that when you go to China. And in addition to NUS, a lot of our partner universities also actually offer some joint scholarships, awards, or anything. So for anyone who's kind of a bit like us, maybe worried about the money, like that's really something you can turn to. And I think with that you can still maximize and have a really good overseas study abroad experience.
And also, if you plan in advance, you can save in advance also.
That's right.
Yeah. And okay, maybe now we can move on to our last question since time is a bit tight. Our last question is actually about COVID, so the topic on everyone's minds, right? So, how has COVID changed international programs? Anyone wants to start this one off?
I think for me, like because I was on exchange when COVID hit, then everything just went online. So I just did all my modules, like my remaining modules online. So I think that's the main thing that COVID kind of did, is that like everything is now online. So even if you kind of go on exchange, you won't really get the full experience of going to classes. But then I feel like as of right now, it's still quite hard to say like what's gonna happen in like a year from now, or like 6 months from now. But I guess all you can do is just like be hopeful that because the vaccine is out, so hopefully maybe like in a year from now, then the regulations will be like lifted. Because I know NUS actually accepted some exchange students already. So I don't know, like there's hope, I guess, for those who are considering and like are like scared that COVID might stop, like stop you from going exchange. Yeah.
Well, actually, I think I guess it's the same. Maybe for COVID, well, now with the pandemic going on, maybe as things develop, we might have to like maybe change our plans accordingly to that, and also always to just stay safe wherever you go. So if let's say you manage to go on like an exchange, I guess safety is always number one. Being safe from the virus and also being safe to the community that you're in. Always watch out for your own your condition. If it's let's say if you're a little bit you're not comfortable with it, then just maybe try to stay at home, stay safe, and also I guess don't always focus on let's say the places that are very far away. Maybe look into the regional places around us. Think about let's say what are the possible places that you might still be able to plan for, and maybe that might be also an interesting experience for you as well. Like rather than to let's say try and hope, but maybe see what realistically we can be doing today now, and maybe rather than just focusing on programs that you might let's say physically be there. Thought about programs let's say like virtual ones. Try and learn about the region, learn about place online through the virtual programs, and then before you actually go there physically in the future. I guess for now we can make do with whatever we have, and then we make the best out of it lah. So any thoughts about that?
Actually, to hear what you said last part. So COVID, this pandemic has really been a dampener on maybe many of our plans, right? And also changed the way many of us were expecting to do study abroad. But I think at the same time, there's also like a private side to this as well, and that's that NUS and a lot of our partner universities have been creating virtual sort of new, very innovative programs. And I think Arita, do you have some pictures to show us?
Yeah,
Many of
so these are some of the summer virtual programs that students were able to do.
Yeah, so this one was actually, the first picture was actually the NUS Medal Virtual Youth Summer School. And then in this program, many of the students who joined could actually learn like traditional Thai dancing in real time. So I think that was really cool. And this university also actually sends our students the traditional costumes and taught them how to wear it. So even though we're not physically in Thailand, we could also experience, some kind of a lot of their culture there. And also, this is what we can do in the meantime. And another example that we had quite recently was the Ashkan University's online summer school. So I think that's the next picture. Yep. So this one also allows students to virtually experience live tours at Indian museums, and also this kind of value-adding extracurricular actually really enhances their experiences. And if this is something you're interested in, you should really definitely check out the virtual programs that we have. Some of our peers also participated in East Tier programs, so that's like study abroad enrichment in the middle, like from the Middle East, and they managed to visit markets overseas and also to watch activities like falcon hunting. So that's really cool. Never really expected that.
So in the past, you'll be like, okay, I do worry about like I need to go there. How do I reach there? To my schedule, does my schedule allow that? So now actually you can just like wherever you want to go, all those wacky places, all those things that you never thought you wanted to do. And actually, if the opportunity comes, just go for it, and then you can actually enjoy that. Like you can actually have an idea of that before you actually go to that place in future. So I guess it's like still exploration, I guess, and then all the things that are different that you never tried before. Like for example, I didn't know what falcon hunting I never tried
Right,
before.
falcon hunting.
Okay, now that you say that, it's quite interesting. So like okay, maybe I will consider that as well. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. So this summer it's not actually really not possible for us to travel overseas yet. But GRO, so the Global Relations Office, with an exciting suite of virtual programs with partners like King's College London, Fudan University, UC Berkeley, Peking University, Mahidol University, and Korea University, Tel Aviv University. And I'm going to keep going on, so you can just go to the NUS GRO website to take a look at our full list.
So maybe morning you could be in Asia, and at night you could be at Europe.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Like, nothing's stopping you now, right? It's all for show. Okay, so it's actually almost time. So we'll actually be uploading this whole video to our website on NUS GRO. So if there's anything you wanted to recap, go ahead, go on over there after this. And
or any last thoughts, you can just put in the comments.
yeah, or you can
Any last questions you want to ask us?
Or you can also go for like if you're ever matriculated at NUS, we have the Ask a Pal service. So you can maybe register and then speak to us. We'll be there. Yeah, and then you can share our
look for our
experience.
office here, the Global Relations Office where Arita is. Yeah, right. Yeah, got it. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a good week ahead. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.